Manx Radio Podcasts, powered by Shaw.
Well, welcome to this week's Countryside programme with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. And we spoke about the weather last week, Kiri, and how sort of tricky it is for farmers trying to feed animals that are outside, in particular with the masses of rain that have accumulated over the last few weeks, isn't it?
It seems to be the regular thing year on year now. It's a lot wetter in the winter times. At least it's mild. That's one saving grace. But no, it does look a bit dim and dreary out there, doesn't it?
And it's amazing in a way when you look at some of the fields and the mud at the gates where they're feeding the cat, how they can sort themselves out in a year's time. Look as fresh as long as there's not more rain. But
come springtime, the ploughs are in and it's all tidied up and you'd hardly know it happened, would you really?
Well, I was lucky. It just stopped raining when I joined Bry Radcliffe, one of the veg growers from the north of the Isle of Man. He has his little cave, as I call it, on the quay, where he's it was very, very popular. I was there last Saturday in the queue out there, just getting the fresh veg there. And I joined him out in one of the fields up north. He was out there on his own, picking the sprouts and the water all dripping off them. Great crunchy noise when he was just taking them off the stalks. So that was something very interesting. And then I attended a very successful Manx whale and dolphin watch show that was put on at the Villa Marina Saturday and Sunday. And they had life-size models there of the whales and dolphins, and so much information about the history of it, and also information about the mammals that was there on show, and something for the kids to entertain them as well. It was great.
Well, that's it. And plus, we get to see so many of the mammals around the Isle of Man. People, really show an interest now. They want to get and find out more, and get the binoculars out and see what else they can spot out there too.
I wouldn't do to look too far on some of the places. But you were also at a very well-supported gathering put on by Chris Neal.
Yeah, the rural business consultant Chris Neal brought over two fabulous speakers, a younger tenant farmer and an older, very successful beef farmer, winning the actual Beef Farmer of the Year award last year. And it's great for farmers to interact and hear different stories from around the UK. Sometimes you think you're the only one having a bad day, but all the other farmers are too. So it's good for farmers to get off their own farms and out to listen to these meetings.
Well, you can hear all of that in detail now here on this week's Countryside.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Kiri, we spoke last week about the soggy sort of weather underfoot and how it's affecting things, particularly people trying to feed animals. And I know we feel sorry for the odd motorist because the tractor's coming in and out in the fields, but that's the bit where you've got to feed them from, isn't it?
Well, this is it. It does get a little bit muddy, but people on the Isle of Man seem to be a little more understanding, especially in the countryside. But it is a difficult time, but spring's around the corner.
Oh, well, you're looking on the optimistic side of it, like Brian Radcliffe, who runs the, of course, veg store here here in Ramsey on the Isle of Man, on the quay. Every Saturday's open, but of course he has to work hard all the week getting preparations ready to stock that up, and also some of the restaurants are on the Isle of Man and some of the markets that he supplies as well. Well, I caught up with him in the middle of the field on his own, picking sprouts.
The weather, it's been a tough old winter, hasn't it? January's been exceptionally wet, but we battled on. It's a great day here today. We're out the coast here, and the sun is on our backs now, and it's just quite beautiful picking these sprouts, isn't it? That is gorgeous, isn't it?
That is a true veg man, just taking a bite of them raw from the field.
Trying to have a bite yourself?
Or later in a second or two.
Put one in your pocket for later.
The great thing is when people, I suppose, I was in at your place on the quay in Ramsey last week, and the amount of people coming in with that sort of knowledge that they can get the good Manx produce, the veg and everything. They don't see this side of it, Bri, too often, do they?
They don't really, This is when we got to really battle on, and we've got deadlines to do, even for a little fella like myself. Great to have the support, it really is. Christmas was particularly busy. I couldn't manage without my little team of helpers, and we battled on. The weather was kind. Yeah, it's great, and I love meeting with people. It's really smashing to build up a rapport with them. It's lovely.
Yeah. Do they ask many questions when you're in there?
Oh, loads, yeah. And you try and explain to them what's in season and what's not in season, and why it's got a blemish or why you haven't got any or whatever else. But no, it's cracking. I love it. Nice to meet the people.
I'm looking up here, and we're just here around this group and this bucket of sprouts that you got picked here.
Yeah, come on, let's keep moving.
And I cooked here, and I can see them for quite a mile up this field. Really, how much of it is sprouts in this particular area?
Well, where we are here now, there's about half an acre of sprouts, but probably in total there's maybe about an acre or more just scattered around in other little fields and pockets everywhere. But in this field, we've got some leeks along the headland here. Some sprouts, some parsnips, some carrots, and in the bulk of the field were spuds. They've all been lifted and gone now and safely stored away at home. But it's nice ground. If we look south, lovely view of the hills here, isn't it? You can see all the way from Kirkmichael to Mackle. It's gorgeous, and in a summer's day, it's just beautiful. You come out here and just virtually go to sleep on the tractor and enjoy it. It's lovely.
This side of it, is it difficult, or are you sort of the old traditional with crop rotation about different vegetables in different areas each year?
Rotation is key, isn't it? Rotation is key to anything. We never grow the same thing twice in a 5 or 6 year rotation really on the ground. And plenty of dung and old-fashioned rotations is key really. And to be honest, we're not, as long as the weeds are not in too much competition with the crop, we just battle on with them, because more often than not kill maize and redshank will die off, and there's a bit of grass as you can see in chickweed, but it's okay. You've got to have a little bit for all the insects and other little birdies to chew on, haven't you?
There's a couple of hollows in this field where the water's settled in now. I mean, how much is that a problem? Does the stuff still grow in it?
No, it's gone rotten there. It just happened to be a little low spot in the field, and we just got to wipe it out. It could be a lot worse, could be a lot better. Got to be philosophical, haven't you? Take the rough with the smooth. Be better day coming.
What's the worst ones that are affected by weather in your sort of line of vegetables and fruit?
Probably carrots, really. I suppose you don't like to have wet feet, do we? Carrots, a lot of people I spoke to across, I've got friends across, and the water table has been so high, but carrots are going rotten from the bottom up. But we're not too bad here. I've lost little pockets or two often, but we're okay. We're not too bad. You got to plant a little bit in every field to spread the risk, haven't you? You know. You don't want to have all your carrots in one little patch, so I like to have about half a dozen or 8 different patches around about.
Well, you've got your outlet, of course, which is busy on the Saturday, in the cave, as I call it.
The man cave, yeah, it's lovely in there.
Is there lots of other places that you do apart from that?
Yeah, well, we're probably the next best one of where most people get the veggies for food assembly in Douglas. It's a great little spot down there at Noah, and it's an online shop, really it is, so you can choose from vegetables from me or meat from other people and dairy products and lovely yoghurt from Billy and Kiri, and it's great. People come along up there, buy it all online, come along, meet the people, hand it over, have a chit chat. It's lovely on every other Wednesday I should say. Yeah.
And what's the main thing they say about it? I mean, they don't mind. A lot of them don't mind a bit of soil still on them and what have you, do they?
They don't mind a bit of dirt. At least you know it's fresh grown, dirty carrots, dirty parsnips, little tails on the leeks, things like that. And I don't know, you just come down to have a chat with me, really.
Bri Radcliffe there out in the field, picking the sprouts that are going to be freshly in the markets and at the restaurants, and getting ready his stock for the weekend to his place on the quay in Ramsey. And it puts it to home, really, when I was standing out in that field with him. Luckily, it had been raining, so all the water was dripping off the sprouts. You could hear them crunching away there. And he's just out in the middle of the field with the earphones on him, working away. You know.
This is it. His hands must have been absolutely frozen. It's been a right cold spell.
Well, I think Diane told me his hands are quite warm always, so I suppose he's lucky in that respect. But it is one of them things that he says, well, you know, that's what I do. You know, he's never going to make £1 million in it, but you know, what do you do?
This is it. But he's so successful, and many people island-wide will go to Ramsey and get his veg. You know, it's second to none, and especially the amount of effort that goes into it. And he's got a brilliant Facebook page there for all of the local people to keep up to date with what he's up to on the farm, and it's great business he runs.
Yeah, the people come in for a chat. I think he could make more money from a counselling service or something if he set one up.
Selling tea.
But I suppose Bri has been involved in that in a way, in the family side of it, just about all his life. And some people, even who've been in it a while, still like to seek a little bit of advice, don't they, agricultural-wise?
That's right. It's always good to share knowledge, and maybe some methods work and some methods don't. But recently, rural business consultant Chris Neal, he's invited farmers over to the Isle of Man to give a talk to our farmers. And I went along to see how this meeting went with Chris.
We had James Beery and his wife Julia, tenant farmers, sheep farmers from recently moved from Staffordshire to Yorkshire. And we also had Paul and Dinwyn Williams from North Wales. They were beef and sheep farmers with suffering with a horrific rainfall area in North Wales. So and obviously we had Oliver McIntyre, the agricultural specialist from Barclays. So we had three really good speakers who all brought something to the table and made an excellent night. It
was really good to hear Jim talk at the meeting, Chris. He's a young farmer trying to get into agriculture. You know, what hurdles he has to come across, tenancies and all the rest of it. Is it as difficult for young farmers to get into the industry here on the island?
It's difficult for anybody young trying to grow their own business, and that's effectively what Jim is doing, and that's effectively what the Isle of Man's young farmers are doing. It is difficult, and if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But Jim, he's doing well. He's had to diversify. He tried to go down a high-value niche marketing route, direct to public, direct to restaurants. It didn't work, and he was lucky enough to get a tenancy on a county council farm in Staffordshire. And from there, he built it up to the point where he needed a bigger farm, and he was lucky enough to get this farm in Yorkshire.
A lot of passion with Jim, and it is essential for a young person starting out in agriculture because, like you say, it can be very difficult. But with the two farmers that you brought over, Manx farmers could, take notes from that meeting the other night. There was a lot of incentive and quite a positive outcome for many of the aspects of their farming industry. One of the things is benchmarking. It seemed to be really prominent in their business, and obviously Oliver from Barclays really liked the idea of it as well. You're monitoring your herd. It's very modern, using technology. It seems to be a good way forward.
Yeah, it was interesting speaking to Oliver. It was probably the one thing that separated some of the top businesses that he worked with versus some of the bottom-end businesses that he worked with. And it was evident when you spoke to Jim and Paul that they knew their costs down to the nth degree. They knew where to focus their efforts. They knew what was driving the profit in their business. They knew which areas to work on. They knew, they were making decisions on hard cash fact rather than gut or hearsay. It was paying dividends. Paul was doing a lot on technical benchmarking. He was benchmarking his herd fertility, suckler cow fertility, and that was driving down his calving interval, and that was actually adding an extra 140, 150 pound a head onto his bottom line, just from exactly the same cow. So your benchmarking really is something to be embraced, not to be shied away from.
That was Chris Neal from the Rural Business Consultancy.
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. And we heard there from Chris Neal about getting these visiting farmers to the Isle of Man just to maybe get of advice and everything. And I think you attended the meeting there and caught up with some of the people, didn't you?
I did. The evening was a very, very busy evening with lots of the farming community turning out. It's been a little while since we've had an agricultural meeting like that, listening to other people's methods and what they do. And these two visiting farmers from the UK, one was a younger tenant farmer and the other a very successful beef farmer, winning the Beef Farmer of the Year Award 2017, and I caught up with them on the evening. Paul, welcome to the Isle of Man. I believe this isn't your first visit.
It isn't, but this is my proper first visit, to be honest with you. Well, thank you very much. You got a lovely island.
Paul, you're not born into a farming family. How did you get involved?
No, you're right. I was actually born in a council flat in a small village in rural North Wales. My grandparents farmed. And ever since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, really, I wanted to be on the farm with them. I spent a lot of my time with them as a kid growing up, and I just fell in love with the farm and the industry, really. So I knew from a very young age that that's what I wanted to do.
A very successful beef farmer, winning this year's Beef Farmer of the Year Award 2017. A huge accolade. You must be very, very proud.
Oh, absolutely. To us, it was a huge shock. We don't wake up in the morning set out to win anything. We just want to win a living, to be honest with you. So and to win something like this it's just absolutely fantastic. And we've been very busy travelling up and down the country doing these talks. And for me, all I want to do is meet other farmers, and the more I meet, the more I get out of it, to be honest with you.
But sharing the knowledge of a successful business is key these days. Your farm, you're part of the monitoring scheme in Wales. You believe that this is essential to business?
Yes, I mean, look, all I can do is go out there and tell them what we do. And I don't like to preach to anybody how to run their business, because they will run their business totally different to what I do and probably do a better job of it. But to me, you've got to know your baseline costs and where you want to go before you can get there. Because if you don't, you're never going to get there. So what we've tried to do is basically look at every possible angle of the business, all the costs, all the cost of productions, and then that will give us the answers at the end of the day.
If you give our listeners a little bit of background, where you're from and what you actually run.
Well, basically we're an upland farm up in the Conwy Valley, on the tops of the Conwy Valleys in Llanrwst, North Wales. We're a suckler cow and sheep unit. We currently up to about 60 suckler cows. We run about 600 ewes, and then we also run a calf rearing business as well, mainly to give us our own replacements more than anything else. We've also diversified. We've got a small wind turbine. The wife's got a marquee hire business, but it's all about the farming, really.
And it's quite similar to here with rainfall.
I wish I had your rainfall, really do. We've got something like 3 times the rainfall of Douglas, if not more, 4 times actually. That is the challenge. That's the biggest challenge we've got, certainly in our part of the world, is the huge amount of rainfall. On average, on a good year, we'll get 2.6 metres. We went up to 4.1 metres in 2015, which is, you can't farm with that sort of rain, really.
No, it's absolutely absurd. But do you believe that climate change is one of the bigger factors that is going to affect the agricultural industry?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think what we'll have, certainly in Britain, is a warmer climate, so that's more grass. But the consequence of a warmer climate is more rain in the winter, and I think certainly where we are, we have to manage that differently to what we've been doing.
Jim, your first trip to the Isle of Man, welcome. I guess it's quite similar to where you're farming now, but as a young farmer moving from Staffordshire to an upland farm, how's the transition been?
It's been quite an education. We've had to learn and adapt pretty quickly to make it work. And challenging, really, but in a positive way, but definitely challenging. Yeah.
So as a young person, you were always a sheep farmer. How did it all begin?
I actually grew up on a beef and pig farm, but I decided that sheep was probably my best route into farming on my own. There was less money needed to start, and you were going to see your money back a little bit quicker as well. So, and it just was the quickest way of building up stock numbers and equipment. So I decided to go for that, really.
And how has it been a young person getting involved in agriculture? Are tenancies easy come by? Is there a lot of competition?
Yeah, huge amount of competition. Tenancies aren't easy to come by, but they are there. If you've got the right plan, you need some capital, it is doable, yeah. There's more share farming agreements coming around, contract farming. You've got young people today quite good at thinking outside the box, so there are opportunities there. You just got to think about how to tap into them, really.
I see you've embraced technology and the help from other people, benchmarking and using the Liverpool Vet College also to aid your farming enterprises.
Yeah, that's right. It kind of works for both of us. It gives the students there some experience and a project to do, and then we sort of reap the benefits of their project by putting it into practice and improving our animal health and management.
Do you see benchmarking essential?
Definitely, yeah. Probably one of the most important things to be doing, yeah. You don't know where you're at if you don't do that, and you don't know how you compare to other people and where you can improve, So it's absolutely essential.
Your visit to the island, Oliver, is to do with Barclays hosting a meeting with the Rural Business Consultancy to address farmers on industry. What's your role in Barclays?
I'm UK based. My job title is National Agricultural Strategy Director, and what that entails within Barclays UK is just overseeing our policy, overseeing our marketing, our presence at some of the business-to-business shows, and just getting involved in some problem cases at times, because occasionally, lending doesn't always go to plan in the agricultural sector in a price-taking industry. But it's a very varied job, and today it's brought me to the Isle of Man, which is fabulous.
Well, you've always been brought up on a farm. You grew up on a pig farm back in Lancashire, so you know the ins and outs of it. It must be very helpful when a farmer comes to see you.
Yeah, it's. I've got quite an interesting background. So I grew up on a family farm, as you rightly say. I've done ag college, went to Manx Agricultural College in Lancashire. Spent about 10 years managing farms for other people, so that gives you a different perspective. And then 5 or 6 years in consultancy, and about the same lending money. And now I'm in this job. I think my friends say I can't hold a job down, apparently. So, but it does give you that broad spectrum, and being able to, chat to farmers and really identify with the issues they're facing can really help conversations, sure.
And how has things been going in the agricultural industry? The last few years have been very testing, and now with Brexit in the future.
Yeah, really tough. Sort of 2014, 15, 16 in the UK has been really tough. Really low milk prices, really low grain prices. Beef and lamb, not as affected, but still tough. And the pig price has been horrendous, to be honest. But what we have seen in 2016 is far stronger markets, far more demand. Weakening of the pound has helped, because it's helped make those imports a little bit less competitive with UK produce. So overall, UK agriculture had a really good year in 2017. I think for us, Brexit, it's a fog, to be honest. It's on the horizon, it is coming, and the date is bearing down upon us. But the only thing we keep telling our customers is focus on your core business, focus on your cost of production, be the best you can, and you will get through this, because I swear blind, we get 10, 20, 30 years down the road, it'll just become a distant memory in the past. Maintain that efficiency, that's what it's about.
And how do you see young people coming into the agricultural industry? Are they still flocking in?
There's a lot of people wanting to get into the industry. I think if you look at the figures for agricultural college in the UK, their numbers are up. Hugely so. When I went to agricultural college in the dim and distant past, I think there was 18 on a national diploma course. Now they're running sort of 30, 40 people on some of those courses. So there is a big influx of people into the industry. But what they've also got to remember is that working in agriculture isn't all about working on a farm. I consider myself to work in agriculture, but I work for a bank. There's consultancy. There's the feed and nutrition industry. There's all sorts of ways into agriculture. And whilst it is a really difficult industry to get into with high capital costs, if you want to be a hairdresser with a high street shop, you're going to have to build up an awful lot of money to go to a bank and say, right, I want to buy a shop, I want to run my own salon. It is exactly the same. Getting into business is not easy.
That was Oliver McIntyre from Barclays, Jim Beery and Paul Williams from Wales.
And it's fantastic to hear from them visiting farmers, and great that it was supported so well. And it was great that Chris Neal managed to get some backing for that, because obviously you've got to get people over here and everything. And it was nice that a bank has got involved with some help as well, wasn't it? It was
great, and especially Oliver with a farming background as well. He grew up on a farm and then was a farm manager and then a business consultant himself. It was great to hear from the Banking Society's views, and also in a lot of layman's terms as well. But we get a lot of support from the banks here on the Isle of Man, and they can determine the success of many of the business, really.
They can. It was great to hear young and older, younger one and more experienced ones giving their views on what they've managed to succeed with, in a way, isn't it?
Well, that's it. And many young farmers will sometimes wonder if they're doing the right thing getting into agriculture, and it is a long, hard road. But it was nice to have a successful young farmer there showing how, he's got over his fails and improved, and he's still striving forward.
Well, we spoke about all the wet weather at the start of the programme. It'd be perfect weather for whales and dolphins. They'd be able to swim anywhere on some of the land on the Isle of Man. Well, this weekend there was an exhibition on and a show, and a lot of people and members of the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch supported their own event, and they produced this show on at the Villa Marine on Saturday and Sunday, and I went along to find out more of what was on display. Well, let's have a chat with some of the younger generation who are keen to learn about the whales and dolphins around the Isle of Man. Who am I speaking to?
Evie, Amelia, Abby.
A lot of these whales and dolphins seem quite big. They're not too scary though, are they?
No, they're not scary.
No? And what fascinating things do you know about them?
Sometimes they eat plankton, but they can smell it with, sometimes with their mouths and sometimes with their nose.
Yeah? What about you?
We've been learning about basking sharks, and one of the facts is when basking sharks rub against each other, they leave a snot, fishy smell in the water.
And what about you? What have you learnt from today? There's a lot of people here.
Yeah, there is, and it's really cool. It's cool to know about all the different breeds and colours that I've never even heard of before. I've never heard of them before. It's really cool. And there's the quiz. The quiz is really fun.
What's been the most surprising bit that you've found out about them?
Probably the fact that you get very small breeds of sharks, whales. And I didn't know that. I think they were humongous. Yeah,
it's not just the massive whales you see on films then.
Yeah.
There's lots of boards here with photographs and pictures on as well.
Yeah, and they're very realistic.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And would you like to go out in a big boat and sit alongside them in the sea?
Yeah, it's a little bit more sunnier.
So I'm talking to
Peter McAvoy.
And the great thing about it is it's so educational and the kids love it because there's so much for them to see, the life-size models, but there's a lot for the grown-ups to read and learn, isn't there?
There is indeed, yeah. The kids love getting hands-on, but there's lots of useful information. We've picked up our little lanyard with all the local species on it, so we'll keep that in the glove box of the car.
Do you ever have sightings of them around the Isle of Man coast when you're driving out and about or walking?
Oh yes, and we sign up to the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch, the WhatsApp group, so you get live updates when they're out and about, so we'll go and see those when we can. There was an amazing sighting of minkies a few months ago off Marine Drive, and that was spectacular, so that was thanks to the quick reaction from the WhatsApp group.
Well, let's have a chat with Education Manager for the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch, Jen Adams. What a turnout you've had.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. So yesterday we had well over 1,000 people through the doors, and today it's, almost 1 o'clock, and it's busier than it was this time yesterday. So amazing turnout. Everybody loves it. The kids are fascinated by the size of these amazing creatures.
What's been you've been here on hand and probably answering a lot of questions that people have been asking you. Well, what's the sort of most topical questions or inquiries people have been asking?
A lot of people want to know how they can get involved and how they can spot whales and dolphins themselves from the coast. So we're offering lots of hints and tips, good things to look out for, and also we tell them to sign up to our WhatsApp live sightings feed if we take their phone number, and then we can notify them of live sightings as and when they come through, and sign up to our Facebook page as well.
How critical is that the public are involved in the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch?
It's essential. I mean, you can only really ensure the ongoing conservation of a species if the public are behind it. So no matter how much research we're doing, if the public don't know about our research and our findings, then we're not really making that much of a difference. We want the Manx community to really get involved and see whales and dolphins as part of our Manx national heritage.
What about this exhibition or show that you put on over the weekend here at the Villa Marina? Is this something you regularly do or not to this scale before?
We've never done anything like this before. It's the biggest show we've ever put on. We had no idea what to expect, so it's definitely exceeded our expectations. And it's been amazing. A lot of people have been asking whether we're going to do it again. So the answer is probably yes. It takes a lot of organisation, so maybe in a couple of years' time or something like that.
Some of the people who attended a very successful weekend at the Villa Marina at the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch show, and it was great, Kerry. They had life-size models of the whales and dolphins there, and the kids were absolutely loving it. And when you're up close to them, you're sort of glad that they're in the sea and we're on the land sometimes.
They're an awful lot bigger when they're up close, aren't they? You only ever see like a fin or a bit of a tail disappearing back under. So it is nice to have the opportunity to get up and see them and compare size.
Yeah, it was great. That the new boat they've got, named Galps after the late John Galpin, who was the founder of her. It was absolutely fabulous, and all that stories of it were all there. It was great.
It's lovely how the marine life around the Isle of Man is so well looked after, but it's also great for people to get out on the coastal paths. We're very lucky and lovely to see some of these animals really up close, aren't they?
Yeah, they are indeed.
Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, that rounds off this week's Countryside, Kiri. It was great to hear the stories of them visiting farmers, young and old, which was nice, wasn't it, at that event put on by Chris Neal?
Well, this is it. As we were talking about rainfall before, we thought it was very wet on the Isle of Man, but when you compare 4 metres in Wales, it's a bit of a difference. Yeah, I think we're quite lucky here.
Yeah, and also the Manx Whale and Dolphin Watch, they've got a great following, and it started quite a few years ago now, and they've got a new boat and everything, and it was great to hear. The information that was there was just great. The life-size, inflatable models, and the young, something there for the young ones, and it's not just to educate them. Educates us as well.
Well, this is it. You're never too old to learn something new. And plus, if you have the opportunity to get out on a boat and actually around the waters, these mammals are quite friendly, really, aren't they? There's lots of sightings.
So they say. And also Big Bry with his sexy sprouts. he's tough if you ever go to his Facebook page, isn't it, Kiri?
Oh,
he's got all sorts of names on his veg, hasn't he?
He has, but he's so passionate about what he does. And, it's bringing home, the reality, him out there in a wet, old, horrible day, covered in mud, but loving what he does because, it's providing local produce and it's so well supported.
Yeah, people just don't see that side of it. They just see it on a Saturday standing inside on a concrete floor.
This is
selling them to the general public. So hats off to people who are involved in that. All right, we'll leave it there for this week's Country. So we're back next week with more. So from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kiri Kermode.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Don't sit in the slow lane. Join the fast lane right now with Shaw's all-new Superfast Plus broadband. Enjoy more bandwidth, amazing speeds and the best value on the island from just £23.95 per month. So don't be left behind. Get a piece of the high-speed action with Superfast Plus broadband from Shaw. For details, visit our stores in Douglas, Ramsey and Port Erin or click shaw.com. Love being Shaw. Terms and conditions apply.